The development of AI agents just got fun again, or maybe for the first time for developers at least, because Google recently introduced their newest tool for AI agent development, adequately called Agent Development Kit or ADK, which allows software developers to take full control over the traditional lifecycle or software development lifecycle of an AI agent rather than having to glue together a bunch of tools all over the developer community. And this announcement comes from the last few days of Google Next conference in Las Vegas. And from the looks of their documentation, it allows you to really dive deeper into every part of agent development, from the actual development start to testing to actual deployment. And most of the tools that are available for the ADK are geared toward Google Cloud, as we should expect, but you can also deploy this anywhere that Python is supported. So that's why I decided I was going to take a little bit of time to go over or go through the beginning workings of the documentation. I haven't gone through this extensively yet. I plan to make another video about that, but I wanted to get this out just to play with this and see what it does. So without further ado, let's jump into some code and see how this actually works. So I'm going to get started with this project using Poetry. If you're not familiar with what Poetry actually is, it's a way to keep track of all of your dependencies for your Python projects, and it's my flavor of choice to actually get started with. I know that UV is all over the place at this moment, but I'm more familiar with Poetry because it's what I use for work and stuff like that. If you are so inclined to actually use UV or any other virtual environment management tool, feel free. But in this video, I'm going to use Poetry, and you can find that right up here. I'll leave that in the documentation as well. To get started, I'm going to go ahead and create a new Poetry directory. So we'll say Poetry new, what do I want to call this? I guess I'll call this YouTube or YT ADK starter. Sure, let's just call it that. Then from here, I'm going to go ahead and CD into this. So we'll say CD ADK starter. Cool. And go ahead and open up cursor. I'm going to use the code variant of opening that because I set that up that way on my machine. By the way, if you're wondering how I have PowerShell and Ubuntu open at the same time, I'm using WSL on Windows. So I'll go ahead and open that, and we'll get started here. So now that I have this open, now that I have the project open, I want to spend some time inside of the development or the agent development kit documentation, because there's a lot of good things that you can find here. Obviously, it's an explanation of what ADK actually is. So by the definition of Google's standards, at least, ADK is a modular framework for developing and deploying, like I said earlier, AI agents to wherever you like. And again, they push, I'll say, Google Cloud because it's obviously their product, and it's something that they've recently open sourced, and it's said that it's supposed to be the easier way to actually deploy on Google Cloud and all the things that are available inside of the ecosystem. Obviously, that makes sense for Google. You can really deploy this on any server that you would like, and basically the same things that you would do locally, you would be able to deploy this wherever Python is actually supported as well. So you can deploy this on Docker, you can deploy this on AWS, wherever you actually need to. But obviously, Google wants Google stuff to be hosted on Google because they get the money and all that kind of stuff. Blah, blah, blah. This is a way, or ADK can be used with popular LLMs. So like Anthropic's, Claude, whatever flavor you decide to use, GPT or Gemini or whatever. But I haven't played around enough to find out if you can use things like Olama or things of that nature yet. Plan on making more videos around this topic. It's an interesting topic for me. The ADK can be used with popular LLMs. So again, anything that you are using, or you can, I guess I just answered my own question, or you can use an open source generative AI tools as well. So I guess that does mean that you can use Olama and things of that nature. Their tutorial, or their quick start at least, goes through enough to get started. So let's go ahead and look at that really quick, and then we'll see what this actually creates for us in the end. So the documentation calls for a pip install of Google ADK, which we're going to use Poetry to actually do that. So let me go back over to Poetry really quick, and I'm going to open up my console, and we'll grab, let's do eval, Poetry, env activate. And to add this, we'll say Poetry add, what was that called again? Google ADK. Okay, Google ADK. Cool. Now, as this is installing, it doesn't take that long, so I'll keep it open. But it's a lot of stuff that is actually being installed here. So you have SQL Alchemy for a lot of different, like literally a lot of different things. SQL Alchemy, a whole bunch of Google stuff, fast APIs in here as well. So if this, what I'm trying to get at here is there's a lot of use cases that you can do or use this with, even to the point of creating your own API. Again, that's something that I haven't dived deeper into just yet because it just came out and I'm playing with it for the first time. But you can literally do a whole lot of things here. Inside of the documentation, there's some quick starts that we can grab hold of here. So we've already created, so we've already done this part here. We've already done this as well. So the next thing that we need to do is create or put this inside of our init.py, which comes directly with Poetry when you create a new project. So I'll grab that, I'll just copy that over, and I'll go inside of source, and inside of the YouTube ADK starter, I'll just go ahead and hit this init.py and paste that right in here. I haven't created this agent yet, but we're going to do that now. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll say new file, and we'll call this agent.py, and that'll take care of that there. Cool. All right. The next thing that the documentation is calling for, or that it's going to call for, is, as far as I know, is that we're going to need to add some code here to basically do a weather agent that we're going to create in this tutorial. But I'll go ahead and copy this and paste it right over here. And we'll save that. And just as a overview of what this is doing, this is basically going to look for the weather inside of just one place, which is New York at this point. So I'm guessing that the team in the New York office actually created this, but I don't know exactly. But this is going to ask for, or allow us to ask for a weather report for the city of New York. It's then going to give us this hard-coded report, so it doesn't go out to an API at all, but it just gives us a report that is hard-coded here that the weather in New York is sunny with a temperature of 25 degrees, which is Celsius, 41 degrees Fahrenheit. And if we give it anything else, which you'll see in a minute, then it will just error out. So from there, we can get the current time as well, again, in New York for New York time. So this is going to say the current time in New York is whatever time we currently have right now. So in Eastern Standard Time, whatever the current time is right now, that's what we're going to get. And then our root agent, so after everything is already like created, so all of our functions are created, we then pass all that inside of this guy right here, which is going to take the name of weather time agent. It's going to grab the model, or we can give it any kind of model that we want to in this case. But in this particular tutorial, we're using Gemini 2.0 Flash experimental. The agent description is going to be agent 2 or to answer questions about the time and the weather of a city. In this case, this is the city of New York. And it's going to tell us when we actually try and get information that we can ask questions about the time and weather in the city. Again, this probably should say in New York because, again, it's just hard coded to New York and nowhere else. But we can attach the main goal here is to show that we can attach whatever we want here in terms of the tools. So we can say tools, get weather, do whatever that needs to do in terms of these functions up here. So in order to do that, though, we're going to need an API key for the Gemini 2.0 Flash experimental model to actually work. So we'll go ahead and grab that, and I'll bring that on. Well, so I'll go ahead and grab that and put that inside of the .env really quick. So I'll just say .env here. If we go back to the documentation, that is going to be asked for down here. So I'll just copy this here and paste that in here. So we're not going to use Vertex AI, which is the platform that Google Cloud is hosting all their AI information or all the AI tools on. We're not going to use that here, but we are going to need this API key. So I'm going to grab mine. And in order to grab one of those API keys, you want to go to aistudio.google.com/API key. You can see that I already have mine. So I'm going to grab mine, put it inside the project, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I have my API key inside of the project at this point, I'll go ahead and close that. And to open or to run this, what we need to do then is to, or at least if we want to look at what's actually happening, there's an easy command to actually get that done, which is just ADK web. And it's astoundingly amazing. I'm not exactly sure which way we're supposed to say that, but it's incredibly fast in terms of how we actually get this to run so that we can use this or see this on the web. And if you are going to run it in any other way, you can also run it in the terminal as well using ADK run multiple or multi-tool agent, and then also an API server using ADK API server, which enables you to create a local fast API server in a single command, enabling you to test local curl commands with your newly created agent. So again, like I said, using fast API, you can literally do a whole bunch of different things inside of this. And we can, if I'm not mistaken, we might be able, and I'm going to play around with this on a separate video, but we can probably make a fast API type of environment inside of this environment as well. But again, just to keep this simple, I'll go ahead and use ADK web. So we'll copy that, head on over to the terminal, and I'll paste that right in here. Actually, no, I won't, because this needs to be inside of source. Otherwise, it won't work. So we'll say source, and then we'll do ADK web. And this is going to spin up a web application for me. I'm almost positive that this is going to be using, I didn't actually see it here, so why this is spinning up. I think this is using Screenlit. Maybe, can't tell. Did I see that? No. Don't see it in here yet. But I have a sneaky suspicion that something inside of these tools are using Screenlit. But oh yeah, I forgot. I already have an application running with this. So let me kill that really quick. So we'll go ahead and ADK web again. All right. Open it inside of the browser, and yay, there we go. So as you can see, this gives us a really easy way to get started with a slew of things in terms of agents and agentic development. I'm going to go ahead and select my agent. So we'll say YouTube ADK starter. And then I'll go ahead and say, well, hello. How are you? All right. Sorry about that. I had to make sure that my API key was actually inside of the application, which is which basically what that meant was I meant or I forgot to add an a ending quotation mark at the end, so my bad. But so again, for anyone that may have ran into that same mistake that I did, what you want to make sure that you have is a Google API key that starts with, or at least starts with, or if it does start with a a quotation mark here, that you also in that here. Here now we should be good. So let's go ahead and say ADK web again. Let's try this one more time. Open this back in the browser. Select my agent. So again, this gives us a really easy way to spin up a way to look at what our agents are doing. So I'll say YT ADK starter. I'll just test this out with a hi. And yay, it does work. Okay, cool. So I asked it, just gave it a quick greeting. Hi, hey there. How can I help you today? So I'm gonna ask it to give me, please give me the weather in New York. All right, cool. And we can introspect what's going on here. So we can say, or obviously, this gives us back the request that we were asking for, which again is hard coded here. So this is what we should have expected here. But if we want to inspect what's going on, we can actually click through this and see what's happening and where the parts are coming from and all kinds of things in terms of debugging, when this was created, so the timestamp, the ID of the request, the type of actions that we can take if we have any state that's inside of here. So again, in this particular video, this is just to get the gist of everything, but we can also go ahead and add a state object here to figure out or to give more memory and context to the LLM and the agent that we're working with. Obviously, the name of the agent that was requested. So if we have multiple agents at the time of doing whatever we're doing, we can pass that off to a bunch of different agents. So we can have a weather agent that gets the weather for a specific city or a bunch of different cities or a coast or something like that. Then we can figure out or trace this down if we need to by invocation ID and all kinds of things. So and if we want to get even more granular, I think that gives us, yeah, if we go into the actual request, we can look at the model itself, the model that was created or the model that was used to create this request, the system function that would be sped out if we asked it for that particularly. But again, this is really, really granular in terms of all the things that were just happening inside of this model. So again, I said hi, which came from me, the user. It responded with hi or hi there, how can I help you today, which came from the model. And then I said, hey, give me the weather inside of New York. Again, that's categorizing me as the user. So then we can also go into the response and get specific things that we're looking for here. So again, this is called or called by the city. So we said again inside of the code that if we get New York inside the request, then what we should be expecting is for get weather to be called, which is what happened here. So get weather is what happened. If I said, hey, I want to, can you give me the time in New York? This would again give me a different response. So the current time in New York is 8:44. So again, for my local time, it's 1 hour ahead. So it's 8:44 in New York, Eastern Standard Time. And if I go back inside of these bubbles here and click through, again, I'm asking for New York, and this is now saying, hey, use the get current time function that is right here. So hopefully this gives a pretty decent overview of the things that you can do with the ADK. I know that this is just scratching the surface on how this all works, but I wanted to make this video really quickly to understand this myself for real, and then also hopefully shed some light on what you can do with this. I plan on making a lot more videos to understand all of the things that you can do with this. Again, that fast API thing is really fascinating for me, so I'm thinking that I'm going to probably make an API to do a bunch of different things agentically, because again, this is really cool. This is really a perfect way to create agents as a software developer. It's a lot more fun than just trying to do a whole bunch of drag and drop tools. Again, those are fine in their place, but for me as a developer, I want to get to the granular stuff and actually look at what's going on, figure out why it's not working, if it's not working, or figure out how to make it better if it already is. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And until next time, y'all be smooth. Blurt out.